Hey guys, Reuben Williams here, founder of SportsGrad. Back in the day, I landed a job at Cricket Australia on the Monday after my final university exam. And then 3 years later, when COVID hit and my job was made redundant, rather than looking for work for months on end, I was headhunted into a role that doubled my salary. I'm not telling you this to brag, I'm telling you because there is a method to it. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. For example, Lucas Viana, one of our members, called the SportsGrad method a cheat code, and another member, Sasha Brahim, she called it magic. And honestly, I'll take that. Now, most people spend years trying to break into sport and never figure out why it is not working. And so the reason that this podcast exists is to change that. Every week, I'm going to share some real moments from real coaching calls that are unfiltered, unscripted, so you get a taste for the kind of work that has helped people land over 800 roles in sport and counting. If you're ready to stop guessing and start moving in the right direction and go after the career that you've always wanted, apply for the SportsGrad Method program at sportsgrad.com.au. Now, let's get into it. Because it doesn't matter who you are and what stage of your career you're at, nobody is safe. I found out firsthand in 2020 that redundancy can strike at any moment. And even some of the most experienced people in the industry have found that redundancy can strike at any moment. And someone said to me at Cricket Australia way back when, they said, Reuben, you never know when you're going to need your network until you do. And my God, when I lost my job, did I need my network? And so this is a friend of mine who late last year, she came out on LinkedIn and said, hey, I've been working in sport for basically, 10, 15 years or so. And I've been made redundant. I'm now looking for a new job. And she'd the industry had been kind enough to over a long enough period of time that, she could kind of just get by doing what she's doing without too much sort of extra work to get her name out there. But then a couple of months went by and she put up the exact same post. And she said, hey, look, I'm still looking for opportunities. I'm still looking around. There was no other sort of online presence or communication from her in between. It was just like, hey, 2 months have gone by. I'm still looking for a job. Another couple of months went by and she ended up in a position where she had to come out and say, this is hard to say as someone who takes a lot of pride in their success career-wise, but here's some vulnerability. Like after 15 years in sports marketing, I built up a career that I'm incredibly proud of, but I can't find a job. And so what we want to do is make sure that, you guys, thankfully this person's landed on their feet now and they're doing well. But we want to make sure that you are in a position where not only can you avoid that, but also put yourself in a position where, you have many, many options to go to rather than trying to scrap for whatever you can get and then, perhaps fall into another industry that you don't actually enjoy. So this is what we're trying to safeguard you from. And so to do this, we're going to help you implement the headhunted system, which can take you from a place where, people who don't have any sort of online presence on LinkedIn are quickly forgotten and have to come out with a post with, the green circle of death and the hashtag open to work. Like, don't ever do that. And put you in a spot where, your inbox is filled with messages that say, hey, I like the look of your profile. I like the look what you're doing. What are your thoughts on coming working for me? So this is how effective the headhunted system has been for the previous cohort. So Andrew Hawkins from cohort 3, would highly recommend hitting him up if you're in Sydney. He put out one post using this system and he said, just from my initial post, I had a journalist who I have admired for years reach out and want to have a meeting to discuss ideas. And I've also had Channel 7's head of the Commonwealth Games and cricket executive producer reach out to me and have a meeting with her today as well. So one post got him, in connection with these people. Now, Robert Adams from cohort 3 over in Manchester, he used to be an accountant. And his previous job before using the headhunted system was, hey, I've just got a new accounting job in Manchester. He put out 2 posts, and that's all it took for him to gain 215 new connections, one of which was the manager of the Northern Ireland football team. And so by doing this effectively, now he's got, potentially 215 new people, the majority of them in sport, because that's what we get people talking about, that he can actually connect with. And then one step further from that was Sasha. So Sasha was proof that in 5 posts, you can go from nothing to a full-time job in sport. And she came out recently and said, I've just been offered a full-time job in channel operations for a sports media company in Melbourne. They found me through LinkedIn via the series that she was posting. We chatted further, set up an interview from there. And she said that the headhunted system worked for her, and she'd only done about 5 posts in total, and that they hadn't actually gone out to the open job market yet. And this reaffirms that the hidden job market is alive and well. So what we're about to show you today has this sort of effect. And then this is Tom Blazek as well, who at the start of the year, went from a place where he was getting overlooked for jobs and was struggling to break into the athlete wellbeing space, which is an incredibly difficult pocket of the industry to break into. Previously, he was a substitute teacher, didn't have any athlete wellbeing experience at all, but we helped him implement this system. He did it incredibly well. If you need inspiration, I'd check out his profile and look at the content that he was putting out there. And in the space of less than 3 months, he gained, 560 new followers and had people reaching out to him from right across the globe to want to connect with him and offer him jobs. So if you want to get headhunted into a job, and if you want to safeguard your career from whatever forces may be at play in the job market, then you need to make sure that you are top of mind at all times. And so there are 3 ways to stay top of mind in your career with people. Number 1 is on paper. Number 2 is in person. And number 3 is online. Now, most people usually stick with the in paper one. They think, all right, I can just get a job, or I can, move to the next thing by just handing in a bit of paper. But it is by far the most inefficient way to stay top of mind and get your name out there, because you might take 2 hours to put together, your best resume and your best cover letter. And in the hope that you will influence, one person, like the HR manager at an organization is going to pick it up and read it. And if you go back to episode 110 of the SportsGrad podcast with Dan Simons, we talked about, his perspective as someone who reads every single cover letter and resume. He says, you've basically got 5 to 10 seconds to impress me, or I move on to the next one, because he's got, 500 bits of paper to get through. And so you've just done 2 hours of work to be considered for 5 seconds. Doesn't really sound fair, but that is a reality of what's going on. So the other way you might do it is in person. So you might come to a SportsGrad meetup, hang out for 2 hours, meet 10 people, and then come back again the next time and, stay top of mind with those 10 people that you met, but also meet another 10 hours, another 10 people. And so that can be a more efficient way to grow your network with people by getting in their face over those 2 hours. Then the other way that you might do it is use 2 hours to influence 10,000 people. And the way that we do that is through LinkedIn content. And so by doing so, Tom Blazek here was able to reach, I think about 25,000 people with a single post. Robert Adams, I know, reached about 100,000 people across his 2 different posts. And the result of that for Tom in particular was previously, he was trying to hit up Mark Worthington, the head of player development and wellbeing at the Geelong Cats, and his messages were falling on deaf ears. Now Mark Worthington is commenting on Tom's content. And beyond that, his awareness is going far and wide, hitting 10,000 eyeballs at once. And so if you want to, if you've got limited time in the week and you want the smoothest and quickest path to a job in sport, you need to think carefully about how you dedicate the limited time that you have to the most efficient way to stay top of mind with people. The reality is it's a combination of all 3, but most people get the split of that allocation completely wrong. So what we want to do is take you from a place where, people are starting, out on the job boards, getting rejected, moving into networking. Then once the networking doesn't work, then they move to the anxiety fueled #open to work post and move you to a place where we're starting on LinkedIn, reversing that sequence, talking about, what the things you're interested in, appealing to the people who you are trying to reach. So I'm talking about your ideal boss. So if you want to work in commercial partnerships, appealing to commercial partnerships managers and so on. And then along the way, starting to integrate why you do what you do, who you are, and using that as a foundation to build your connections and become top of mind with the people who will ultimately bring you in. So LinkedIn content is what is the main platform that we use to help you guys get headhunted. But if for whatever reason you feel like another platform suits you better, be it Instagram or TikTok, feel free to take the same principles and apply it wherever you go. But at the end of the day, LinkedIn content is really just a means to an end. Okay. Like the whole outcome is like, let's help you get a job. LinkedIn is just a means to help you get there quicker. And the difference is that it's a more effective way to meet people when you use the content correctly. It's an easier way to be remembered. So once you've actually met this person, everyone always asks me like, how do I stay top of mind? When's the right time to follow up? The answer is just post tomorrow and then, do it next week and you can stay top of mind with everybody at once. And then the other way is it's a faster way to be shortlisted as well. Because what happens is when you build an online presence for yourself on LinkedIn, you're changing the perception of your name when they pick up your resume. So for example, when Tom Blazic was applying for jobs, they'd pick his resume up, they go, who's this? Who's this substitute teacher that I've never heard of before? His experience doesn't match what we're looking, we're going to put it away. After posting online several times, they now pick up his resume, they see his name, and they think, oh, that's Tom Blazic, like the guy from LinkedIn. Oh, we should at least get him in here to like see what he's about. They barely read your resume because you've built so much trust and awareness of your name that, whatever's on the bit of paper is kind of like overlooked because now you've got this bit of an aura about you, okay? So if you want to meet people more easier, if you want to stay top of mind and be remembered more easily, and if you want to get shortlisted and fast-tracked for jobs, LinkedIn content is a highly effective way. So what we're going to show you here is how to use it as a more effective way to meet people. So first thing you've got to understand is why people actually want to connect with other people so that we can give them a reason to connect with us, okay? So 5 different ways that someone might want to connect with you. Number 1, to do business. That's not going to be most of us. Number 2, to make a hire. The people who are doing this will only do it with very specific people because their inbox is going to get bombarded. I can tell you that from personal experience, just posting a couple of jobs the other day. I'm still trying to get back to everybody. Number 3 is to learn from others. And for the people that you guys are trying to connect with, they're probably not trying to learn from you. Some of them maybe, but they're probably trying to learn from other people already in the industry. Number 4 is to pay it forward. That isn't a reason why they may want to meet with you. But number 5 is the most effective way, and that is to elevate their work. Because at the end of the day, everyone loves talking about themselves. And if you give people a platform to talk, you will find out how willing they are to give you their time. Who recognizes this photo? A few people. So this was the moment that Australia was awarded the host country for the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup. And at the front of the room is Chris Niku. So Chris Niku is the chairman of Football Australia. And this was during COVID. So Chris Niku is the chairman of Football Australia. How do you reckon you get in touch with him? Send him a LinkedIn message. So back in 2018, I had a shitty little YouTube channel called SportsGrad with 30 subscribers. And I came across Chris. And I said to him, I was like, hey, Chris, looks like you got an interesting profile. He was a director on the board of Football Australia at the time. And I said to him, I was like, I currently run a platform for students or anyone pursuing careers in sport. Here I interview industry professionals to uncover their insights and make them accessible so people can learn from their experiences to forge their own career. If you're available in Melbourne next week, would love to have a chat with you. What I did, and I didn't know this at the time, is that by starting SportsGrad as a YouTube channel, I had created myself a connection vehicle, something that gave Chris a reason to say yes and want to meet with me. And it had a very specific purpose, and it elevated him, which meant that he could give me his time. The way that this connection ended up happening was we couldn't catch up in person. He kept saying, no, or not now, not now, not now. And then he was like, I'm about to go to the FIFA World Cup in Russia. Let's do it when we get back. And I said, that's all right. I'm going to Russia as well. And so we tried to meet up in Moscow, didn't make it work. Tried to meet up in Kazan, still no luck. We get to Samara, which is like, 4,000 kilometers east in the middle of Siberia. And at 12 p.m. on the day that Australia about to play Denmark, Chris says, why don't you come to Skazkar restaurant? We're having a Socceroos family and friends function, and we can do the interview outside before the function. And I was like, you beauty, let's do it. So I got a Yandex. They don't have Uber over there, so I got a Yandex out to this restaurant and sat down with Chris and we do the interview. And then halfway through the interview, someone waltzes over and says, "Excuse me, Chris, can I borrow you for a second?" And I was like, "Who the hell is interrupting my interview? I've just come all the way across the world to chat with a director on the board, and someone has a nerve to interrupt me." And I look up, and it was Stephen Lowy, the current chairman of Football Australia, who also is part of the family that owns Westfield Shopping Centres worth $7 billion, one of Australia's richest families. And I was like, that's all right. You can take Chris. But after that, Chris was like, he was very kind and generous and said, why don't you come inside of the function room? So I came in, Tim Cahill's kids were running around. I met the incoming coach, Graham Arnold, and Andy Harper, a whole bunch of ex-Socceroos, and I was just like a kid in a candy shop. And so not only did I get to meet Chris and have this incredible conversation with the chairman to be, but it also just elevated the experience that I had from my World Cup trip. But all of that came from by giving Chris a reason to chat. And the reason for that was having this connection vehicle. So what an incredibly effective strategy for you guys is to not only elevate your career, but give you close touch point with people that you want to meet, is creating your own connection vehicle. And so for Tom, what that looked like was creating a series where he would analyze athlete wellbeing journal articles and summarize them. And so what it meant for him is, if he wanted to connect with a particular researcher or academic, he could say, hey, my name's Tom. I do a series on athlete wellbeing insights. Would love to do a post on your research. Any chance we can catch up and chat about it before I go ahead and post it. Now they feel good, their work gets elevated, and Tom gets introduced to them. You never know who they know. They can introduce you to their network as well. Ankit Sobti here, a bit more simple, but he just said, I'm having 100 lunches with strangers. Again, just simple idea, but gave him a reason to connect with people, and people were like, yeah, I'll get around that. A great one at the moment is Notice. So some of you might follow Notice on LinkedIn at the moment. It's run by a guy called Matthew Hughes. I believe he works for Bupa in the marketing team there, but he does this basically under the banner of Notice, so he doesn't have to do it under his own name. And if you are looking to create a connection vehicle, you might want to look at doing something like this as well. But Matt, on top of his full-time job, has his sports marketing platform talking about what the hell is going on in sports marketing. And that's given him the chance to run events, to meet people in the industry, whilst also kind of remain in this sort of incognito mode so that he can actually do his job. But also, I'm sure the people at his work understand what he's doing on the side because it's not too hard to figure out. But the way he positions it is like, hey, I'm a sports fan. I work in marketing. I'm just combining the two as a hobby, and it comes out in the form of writing and sharing news on sports marketing. And so for some of you who might be thinking, well, I've got an employer. I don't want to look like I'm job hunting. Having a All right, guys, that is all for